Tieu nu has survived the critical condition, but the baby in her womb couldn't be saved. Truong, who had been absent during her painful months, is now standing by her hospital bed, his heart heavy with regret. He brought with him the ring, a symbol of love and a promise, but will she wake up to receive it? The guilt and worry about the future keep Truong from staying calm. While tieu nu remains in a coma, can their love be strong enough to overcome the silence and the secrets yet to be revealed? And can Truong fix everything before it's too late? Unexpected developments will continue to change everything in the next episode. Truong stood outside the hospital room, his heart burning with anxiety. The hospital hallway was eerily silent, broken only by the hurried footsteps of nurses and the distant beeping of the monitor. Truong couldn't sit still. Every second that passed felt like torture. He stood up, then sat down again, his gaze fixed on the door, which remained tightly shut, as if it held both his life and soul behind it. Since bringing tieu nu in for emergency care time had seemed to stop. Truong couldn't forget the moment her limp body rested in his arms. Her breath faint, her face so pale, he thought she might never open her eyes again. Now, all he could do was pray in hopeless desperation. The bouquet he'd brought still lay there, forgotten on the bench, its petals wilting, mirroring the fear slowly choking his heart. Inside the room, doctors and nurses were working frantically. The sound of clashing instruments and the constant beep of the life support machines created an atmosphere so tense it was almost suffocating. Tieu nu's fragile body and weak breath demanded their full attention. Every blinking number on the screen sent a sharp pang through Truong's heart. He strained to hear every sound, hoping to catch even the faintest sign that she was still holding on. But the silence stretched on, and his worry reached its peak. Cold sweat ran down his spine, his hands clenched, trembling. A wave of chaotic thoughts flooded his mind. What if she didn't make it? What if the baby was gone? Truong couldn't bring himself to imagine it further. It felt as if the world was crumbling beneath his feet. Each minute seemed to stretch endlessly, and under the harsh white light, he could only feel himself slowly melting away in his helplessness. He remembered the moments they had together, the simple smiles, the dreams they hadn't yet lived. Now it all seemed like a distant dream he feared he would never get back. She was in there fighting between the fragile line of life and death, and all he could do was stand here waiting, hoping and praying. The door to the room remained closed. Every time a doctor or nurse passed by, Truong flinched. His eyes followed them in desperate hope, praying to hear even a small word, any sign that tieu nu was still alive. The only thing left in his heart was this: no matter what happened, he couldn't lose her, and he was willing to sacrifice everything just to see her open her eyes once more. The door to the room opened with a creak, startling Truong. He quickly stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. The doctor stepped out, his face expressionless, but his words rang clearly in the quiet hospital hallway. Tieu nu was safe. Those words made Truong feel as though he had just pulled himself out of an abyss. But then the doctor continued with words that shattered his heart. But the baby couldn't be saved. The world around him seemed to spin. Truong stood frozen, unable to believe what he had just heard. The shock hit him so hard he could barely breathe. Tieu nu had endured this pain alone all through the time he had been absent. He knew she had fought against everything, even the baby inside her, while he had been standing on the sidelines, unable to share her pain. His mind went blank as fragments of the past days flooded his thoughts. He blamed himself, asking why he hadn't come back sooner, why he had left her to face this pain on her own. Every decision, every moment he wasn't by her side felt like a deep wound in his heart. He remembered the look in her eyes when he left, the unsaid words, the fear and worry she must have felt as she faced everything alone. Truong stepped into the room, where tieu nu lay motionless on the bed unconscious. She looked so weak, her face so pale, she seemed like a different person from the one he once knew. He sat beside her, looking at her with so much pain. The overwhelming feeling of helplessness took over him, and he couldn't keep his composure. All he wanted was for her to open her eyes and smile like before, to make everything feel normal again. But reality wasn't like that. He could only sit there, holding her hand, tightly consumed by the feeling of powerlessness. He blamed himself for letting her endure this pain alone, for not being there when she needed him most. The sense of emptiness and agony filled his heart. He looked at tieu nu, lying there fighting in silence, and he felt like the one who had abandoned her. Even though she was still alive, the pain of losing their child and not being by her side made him feel like he had lost everything. Truong's thoughts became chaotic. Would she be able to endure this? And could he fix everything, or had it already been too late? His heart weighed heavily, only hoping she would wake up even just once, so he could apologize and promise that from now on, he would never leave her alone again. Truong sat by tieu nu's bed, his eyes filled with tears as he looked at her pale face. The feeling of helplessness and pain still consumed him, even though the doctor had said she was out of danger. But his heart couldn't find peace. Tieu nu still hadn't woken up. Every moment felt like he was drifting into an empty void, filled only with worry. As he sat there, his hand absent-mindedly fiddled with the ring in his pocket. It was the ring he had kept from his last return, a symbol of the love he wanted to give tieu nu, a promise. Back then, he had planned for a bright future with her, a life full of hope and happiness. But now, that ring was nothing more than a reminder of absence and regret. He couldn't help but wonder if he would have time to give it to her before it was too late. His hands trembled as he pulled the ring out of his pocket. The light from the hospital bulb reflected off the shiny gold, making his heart ache. He imagined kneeling down, giving the ring to tieu nu, promising to always be by her side, to protect her. But now, tieu nu lay there motionless, her life hanging by a fragile thread. He didn't know if she would ever wake up to hear his promise. The waves of guilt rose within him, sweeping through his mind. He blamed himself for not coming back sooner, for not being able to protect her from all the pain she had suffered alone. The headaches, the exhaustion, the baby she had borne it all while he was absent. He felt as though he was the one who had abandoned her, the one who had broken his promise. He couldn't accept the reality of it. His heart shattered as he looked at her lying there, still unconscious, and he couldn't do anything to change it. The road ahead seemed uncertain, and he didn't know if there would ever be a chance to fix his mistakes, to make it right for tieu nu, to show her how much he loved her and the baby. Truong closed his eyes, holding the ring up, imagining a day when tieu nu would wake up, and he would give it to her as a symbol of love and promises unspoken. But would it still be in time? Would she wake up to realize he was still here, still loving her? Or had everything already passed the point of no return? These questions gnawed at him with no answers, only an endless sense of unease and fear.